The night before my wedding, my phone lit up with a message I never thought I'd read again. 4 words: cold, surgical, familiar. Don't come home. My hands started shaking, not because I was nervous about the vows or the guests or the dress hanging silently behind me, but because those words had once ripped my life in half, and now, years later, on the eve of the happiest day I was supposed to have, they were back, like a ghost that never finished the job. I stared at the screen, heart pounding so loud I was sure the walls could hear it. Outside, the city was quiet. Inside, everything was screaming. Because this time, it wasn't just my parents saying it. It was my sister. And the reason she didn't want me there was about to destroy everything. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my story of betrayal. And if you've ever trusted the wrong person, hit that subscribe button because you are not alone. Here is how it happened. Years earlier, I was sitting on a bus with a single suitcase, watching my childhood street disappear through a dirty window. I remember counting the cracks in the pavement like it might calm me down. I remember my phone buzzing in my lap and praying, actually praying, that it wasn't them again. It was. My mother's voice message was short, practiced, as if she'd rehearsed it in front of a mirror. Your sister needs space. It's better if you don't come home for a while. A while. That while turned into years. No explanation, no conversation, no chance to defend myself against an accusation I didn't even understand yet. One moment, I was a daughter with a room, a place at the table, a future that felt shared. The next, I was an inconvenience, a problem to be removed quietly so everyone else could keep breathing. I didn't cry on that bus. Not then. Shock has a way of numbing you, like your body knows it would break if it let the feelings in all at once. Instead, I swallowed everything and told myself I'd figure it out. I always did. At first, I thought it was temporary. Families fight, sisters argue, parents choose sides sometimes. It hurts, but it passes. I sent messages that went unread. I called until my calls stopped going through. I mailed birthday cards that were never acknowledged. Silence became the loudest thing in my life. What hurt most wasn't being pushed away. It was not knowing why. When people talk about betrayal, they imagine screaming matches, slammed doors, dramatic confrontations. But the worst betrayal is quiet. It's when everyone agrees, without telling you, that you no longer belong. I moved cities. I worked whatever jobs I could get. I built a life from pieces that weren't supposed to fit together. And slowly, painfully, I stopped expecting my phone to ring with their names on it. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. Years later, when I started uploading videos to my YouTube channel, I didn't plan on talking about any of this. I just wanted to tell stories, honest ones, the kind people listen to late at night when they can't sleep. And then something unexpected happened. I was reading comments on my YouTube videos the other day, and I realized I wasn't the only one. There were thousands of people who knew that silence, people who'd been cut off, blamed, erased, sometimes by the very families who were supposed to protect them. Every comment felt like a hand reaching out of the dark saying, I see you, I've been there. That's when I understood this wasn't just my story anymore. I met my partner during that rebuilding phase of my life, the version of me that was learning how to survive without permission. They didn't know the full story at first, just that my family situation was complicated. But they saw the scars anyway. They saw how I flinched when holidays came up, how I avoided questions about siblings, how home was a word I used carefully, like it might explode if I held it too tight. When they proposed, I cried harder than I expected, not just because I was happy, but because a small broken part of me whispered, "Who will come?" Still, I sent the invitations to my parents, to my sister. I told myself it was closure. I told myself I was strong enough now to handle whatever response came back. What I didn't expect was a reply. My mother called first. Her voice was softer than I remembered, older, tired. She said, "We're proud of you. Of course we'll come." For a moment, I felt something warm crack open inside my chest. Hope is dangerous like that. It convinces you to forget history. My sister didn't respond at all. Not to the invite, not to my message, not to the olive branch I extended, even though my hands were still bleeding from the last time. I tried to ignore it, focus on the dress fittings, the seating charts, the tiny details that weddings demand so you don't think too hard about the big ones. Until the night before the ceremony, until my phone lit up. The message didn't come from my sister directly. It came from my father. "Don't come home. Your sister doesn't want you there." I sat on the edge of the bed, rereading it over and over, my mind struggling to catch up. Don't come home, to my own wedding venue, to the celebration of my life, to the one day that was supposed to be about love, not exile. Something inside me finally snapped. Because this time, I wasn't a scared kid on a bus with a suitcase. This time, I was done running, and I was about to find out exactly what my sister had been telling them all these years, the lie that made my parents choose her again. But I had no idea how ugly the truth really was. I didn't reply to my father's message right away. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because for the first time in years, I wanted to say everything. And I knew if I typed even one word while my hands were shaking like that, I'd either beg or explode. So I put the phone face down. I stood up, walked to the mirror, and barely recognized the person staring back at me. The dress was beautiful, simple, elegant, the kind of dress people describe as timeless, but my eyes looked older than my age. Not tired, wary, like someone who had learned, the hard way, that joy always came with a cost. I whispered out loud, to no one, "What did you tell them?" Because it finally clicked. This wasn't about space. This wasn't about boundaries. This wasn't about some vague sibling tension that got out of hand. This was about a story my sister had been telling, a story so convincing, so poisonous, that my parents had built their entire relationship with me around it, and I had never been allowed to hear it. I called my partner into the room. They knew something was wrong the second they saw my face. "What happened?" they asked gently. I handed them the phone. They read the message once, then again. Then they looked up, disbelief flickering into anger. "They're telling you not to come," they said, "to your own wedding?" I nodded. My throat felt tight, like my body was bracing for impact. "They did this before," I said quietly. "Years ago. Same words, same excuse." My partner sat beside me and took my hands. Why? That was the question that had haunted me for years, and suddenly, on the eve of my wedding, it was louder than ever. "I think," I said slowly, "my sister convinced them I did something unforgivable." The memories started surfacing in fragments, small moments that hadn't made sense at the time. The way my sister would go quiet whenever I entered a room, how she'd watch me with this tight smile that never reached her eyes, the sudden shift in my parents' tone toward me, less warmth, more suspicion. There was a summer, just before everything fell apart, when she and I barely spoke. I'd chalked it up to stress, jealousy, normal sibling stuff. But now, looking back, it felt staged, like she'd already decided on a narrative and was just waiting for the right moment to press play. And when she did, my parents listened. They always listened to her. I finally replied to my father. "What did she say I did?" The message showed as read almost immediately. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Minutes passed. Then, "She told us you betrayed her trust deeply. She was devastated. We had to protect her." Protect her? From me? I felt something cold settle in my chest. Betrayal of trust wasn't a misunderstanding, it was an accusation, one that painted me not just as a bad sister, but a dangerous one. "What trust?" I typed. "Be specific." This time there was no immediate response. The silence dragged me back to the day everything first collapsed. I remembered coming home to packed boxes in the hallway, my boxes. I remembered my mother refusing to meet my eyes, my father standing by the door like a bouncer at a place I no longer belonged. I asked, what did I do? And my sister not even being there. That absence suddenly felt intentional. My phone buzzed again. She said you shared something private, something that humiliated her. She said you knew how much it would hurt her. I read the message 3 times, my heart pounding each time harder. I hadn't shared anything. Not then, not ever. I typed back, slowly, deliberately. "I don't know what you're talking about. I never did that. Ask her for proof." The reply came fast this time. She was very convincing. That was it. That was the sentence that explained everything. Not evidence, not facts, just persuasion. I felt my partner squeeze my hand. "This doesn't make sense," they said. "Why wouldn't they talk to you, ask you, hear your side?" I laughed, a short, bitter sound that surprised even me, because hearing my side would mean admitting they were wrong, and that would shatter the version of the family they chose to believe in. I stood up again, pacing now, energy crackling under my skin. She didn't just lie, she replaced me. Another memory surfaced, sharper than the rest. I remembered overhearing my parents on the phone once, years ago, talking about how fragile my sister was, how she'd been through so much, how they needed to be careful not to upset her. At the time, I thought they were being compassionate. Now I realized they were being controlled, and I was the sacrifice. I sent one more message to my father. If I didn't do what she claims I did, then why am I the one who was cut off? Why wasn't there a conversation? The reply took longer this time, long enough for my mind to spiral into worst-case scenarios. Finally, she said confronting you would only make things worse. She was afraid. Afraid. The word echoed in my head. Afraid of me. Something inside me hardened. I wasn't that lost kid anymore. I had built a life. I had a partner who saw me clearly. I had a community of strangers online who trusted my voice more than my own family ever had. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. "I want to talk to her tonight." The response came back almost instantly. "She's not ready." That was the moment I realized something crucial. My sister wasn't avoiding me because she was hurt. She was avoiding me because she couldn't afford the truth coming out. Because lies can survive distance, but they don't survive confrontation. I looked at my partner and said, "If I walk down that aisle tomorrow without this resolved, I'll regret it for the rest of my life." They nodded. "Then don't." I picked up my phone again. This time, I didn't message my parents. I messaged my sister directly. "I'm getting married tomorrow. If there's something you think I did, say it to me, not through them, to me." The message showed as delivered. No reply. Minutes passed. Then my phone buzzed. Not a text, a call from a number I hadn't seen on my screen in years. My sister. My heart slammed against my ribs as I stared at it, my finger hovering over the screen, knowing that whatever she was about to say would either set me free or confirm that the betrayal ran far deeper than I ever imagined. I stared at my phone until the screen dimmed, my sister's name still glowing faintly like a warning sign. My partner didn't say a word. They just watched me, steady, letting me decide. I answered. "Hello?" For a second, there was only breathing on the other end, slow, controlled, like she was preparing herself. Then she spoke. "You really shouldn't have messaged me." Her voice hadn't changed. Same tone I remembered from childhood. Soft, careful, always wrapped in innocence. The kind of voice people trusted immediately. "I shouldn't have been erased," I said. My own voice surprised me. Calm, almost cold. She exhaled sharply. "You don't understand how much damage you caused." There it was again, that accusation, floating in the air without shape or substance. "Then explain it to me," I said. "Right now, what did I do?" Silence. Longer this time. And then she said something that made my stomach drop. "You know exactly what you did." That sentence hit me harder than any insult ever could, because it was a trap. If I denied it, I looked guilty. If I argued details, I admitted knowledge. If I stayed quiet, I confirmed her story. I recognized the tactic instantly and hated myself for not seeing it years earlier. "I don't," I said slowly, "and you know that." She laughed softly, not cruelly, almost sadly. "See, that's what you always do," she said. "You pretend, you rewrite things. That's why Mom and Dad believe me." My partner leaned closer, listening now, their jaw tight. "What?" I asked. "Say it, out loud." Another pause. Then, finally, she said it. "You told people about what happened to me." The room felt like it tilted. "What?" I whispered. "At that party," she continued, gaining confidence now, her words flowing faster. "You told people, you let them laugh about it, you made me a story." My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might be sick. "I never did that. I swear to you, I never—" "You were the only one I told," she cut in quickly, too quickly, "the only one, and suddenly people were whispering, looking at me differently. You think that's a coincidence?" Something clicked then, a memory I'd buried because it didn't seem important at the time. The party, the whispers, but not the way she remembered them. That night had been chaotic, loud, too many people packed into a small space. I remembered my sister pulling me aside, crying, telling me something painful, something deeply personal. I remembered holding her, promising I wouldn't tell anyone. And I hadn't. But I also remembered something else, someone else. Someone had overheard us, a friend of hers, someone who'd walked in mid-conversation, someone my sister had brushed off at the time, saying, "It's nothing." "It wasn't me," I said, my voice firmer now. "Someone overheard us. You know that." She scoffed. "Of course you'd say that." "No," I replied. "You know I would never do that to you. I protected you my entire life." She didn't answer right away. And in that silence, I felt it, the shift, the moment where she realized I wasn't backing down. "You always needed to be the good one," she said, "the reasonable one, the one everyone liked." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" she snapped. "Teachers loved you, friends loved you, Mom and Dad." She stopped herself. "They loved me," I finished quietly, "until you told them I was dangerous." Her breathing changed, faster now. "You don't get to play the victim," she said, "not after what you did to me." "What I did or what you needed me to have done?" The words hung between us. I heard her swallow. I pressed on. "Didn't you confront me back then? Why not ask me? Why go straight to them?" "Because I knew you'd deny it." Too instantly. "And you were right, because it's not true." She laughed again, but this time there was an edge to it, something sharp. "You always think truth matters. It doesn't. What matters is what people believe." That sentence landed like a punch. My partner's eyes whitened. "Did you just hear yourself?" I asked.
"You should have stayed away," she replied. "That was the agreement. You built a life somewhere else. Why come back now and ruin everything?" "Because I'm getting married," I said, "and I wanted my family there." "You stopped being family when you embarrassed me," she shot back. "And what about embarrassing me?" I said. "What about throwing me out, cutting me off, letting them think I was a monster?" She didn't deny it. She just said, "They chose." That hurt more than the lie itself. "They chose you," I said softly, "and you let them." "I needed them," she said, "and you were expendable." Expendable, the word echoed in my chest. I thought of all the birthdays spent alone, all the holidays I pretended not to care about, all the times I told myself I didn't need them anyway. And suddenly, the grief I'd buried turned into something else. Clarity. "Tell me the truth," I said. "Just once. Did you know I didn't do it?" Her silence was answer enough. Then she said, almost pleading, "You don't understand how fragile I was back then." "And I wasn't," I replied. "I lost my entire family overnight." "You survived," she said flatly. "I would not have." That was it. That was the justification. "I'm not staying away," I said. "Tomorrow is my wedding. I'm walking down that aisle. If you have a problem with that, you can explain it in front of everyone." Her breath caught. "You wouldn't," she said. "They'll never forgive you." "For what?" I asked. "Telling the truth?" "They won't believe you," she said quietly. "They never did." The call ended abruptly. She hung up. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the empty hum where her voice had been. My partner broke the silence. "She admitted it," they said. "Not directly, but enough." "And now?" I looked at the dress again, the aisle, the future. Now I had a choice: protect the lie or burn it down. And whatever I chose, there would be no going back, because tomorrow my parents would arrive believing one version of their daughter, and I was about to decide whether they'd leave knowing another. I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling while the city outside slowly shifted from night to morning, my thoughts looping through the same question over and over again. How do you tell the truth when the lie has already built a home inside everyone you love? My partner slipped lightly beside me, one arm draped protectively across my waist, as if their body knew I was about to walk into something dangerous. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard my sister's voice again. Expendable. By the time the sun rose, I wasn't angry anymore. I was resolved. The wedding venue buzzed with quiet excitement when we arrived. Florists moved with purpose. Chairs were aligned. Soft music floated through the air like a promise of peace I didn't feel yet. My parents were scheduled to arrive 2 hours before the ceremony. 2 hours. That was all the time I had left before the past caught up with me in public. I went to the bridal suite, surrounded by mirrors and soft fabrics, but I felt like I was standing on a battlefield instead of a celebration. My phone stayed face down on the table. No new messages, no apologies, no reconsiderations, just silence. When my parents finally walked in, the room seemed to shrink. My mother looked exactly how I remembered her. Nervous smile, hands clasped too tightly, eyes darting around like she wasn't sure where she was allowed to stand. My father followed behind her, shoulders stiff, jaw set. They both froze when they saw me. For a moment, none of us spoke. Then my mother whispered my name. And just like that, the years fell away. I wanted to run to her. I wanted to cry into her shoulder and ask why she hadn't protected me when I needed her most. I wanted her to say she was sorry. Instead, I stayed where I was. "Can we talk?" I asked. My father glanced at the door, then back at me. "Is this really the time?" "It's the only time," I said. We sat. No hugs, no warmth, just 3 people circling a truth none of us wanted to touch. My mother spoke first. "We didn't expect things to be like this." "Like what?" "Awkward?"
That tends to happen when you don't speak to your child for years." She flinched. My father cleared his throat. "Your sister is very upset." I almost laughed. "She's not here. I am, and this is my wedding." My mother reached for my hand but stopped halfway, as if unsure whether she was allowed. "She's fragile," she said softly. "You know that." "Yes, and you decided I was disposable." The word landed heavily in the room. My father stiffened. "That's not fair." "Then tell me what is fair. Being accused of something I didn't do, being cut off without a conversation, being told not to come home?" My mother's eyes filled with tears. "She was devastated." "So was I, but no one checked." My father leaned forward. "She told us you shared her secret." "No," I said calmly. "She told you I did. There's a difference." "She wouldn't lie about something like that," my mother said immediately. I nodded. "That's what you thought." My father frowned. "What are you saying?" I took a breath, slow, controlled. This was the moment. Not dramatic, not explosive, just truth. "I never told anyone her secret. Someone overheard us that night. I warned her about it. She knows this." My mother looked confused now. "She never said that." "Of course she didn't, because then she couldn't be the victim." The word hung in the air, sharp and dangerous. My father shook his head. "You're asking us to believe she invented all of this? I'm asking you to believe me, for once." Silence. Then my mother whispered, "Why would she do that?" I swallowed. "Because she needed you, and she was afraid of losing you." "That doesn't make sense," my father said. "You were both our children." I looked at him, really looked at him. "You didn't treat us like that." My mother started crying quietly now. "She said confronting you would make things worse." "And you believed that, even though I'd never given you a reason not to trust me." My father opened his mouth to argue, then stopped, because he couldn't think of one. I pressed on, gently but firmly. "I asked her last night. I gave her a chance to tell the truth." My mother looked up sharply. "You spoke to her?" "Yes," I said, "and she admitted something without meaning to." My father leaned back, his face pale. "What did she say?" I replied, "Truth doesn't matter, only what people believe." The room went completely still. My mother's sob caught in her throat. My father stared at the floor. For the first time, doubt crept into their expressions, not about me, but about the story they'd built their loyalty on. "We didn't want to lose her," my mother whispered. "You lost me instead." That's when something finally broke. My father stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "This doesn't make sense," he muttered. "She wouldn't manipulate us." I stayed quiet, because the truth doesn't need shouting when it's finally being heard. My mother looked at me through tears. "Why didn't you fight harder?" The question stung. "I did," I said, "until I realized you'd already chosen." There was a knock at the door. A staff member peeked in. 10 minutes. 10 minutes until the music started. 10 minutes until I walked down the aisle. 10 minutes until this conversation became irreversible. My father stopped pacing. "We need to talk to her." My heart skipped. "Now?" I asked. "Yes," he said, "before this goes any further." My mother nodded slowly. "If there's even a chance we were wrong." I closed my eyes for a second. This was it, the confrontation my sister had avoided for years. My father dialed her number and put the phone on speaker. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times, voicemail. He tried again. This time she answered. "What?" she snapped. "I told you I couldn't handle this today." My father's voice was tight. "We need you to explain something." Silence. "What now?" she asked. He took a breath. "Did someone overhear that conversation years ago?" A pause. Then, "Why are you asking that?" My mother whispered, "Answer him."
Seconds stretched like hours, and then my sister said something that made my blood run cold. Truth doesn't matter anymore. Because in that moment, I knew. She wasn't afraid of the truth coming out anymore. She was afraid of what would happen if it did. And the next words out of her mouth were about to decide whether my wedding day would become a reunion or a final fracture that could never be repaired.
That doesn't matter anymore. The words echoed through the bridal suite like a gunshot. My father tightened his grip on the phone. It matters to us, he said. Answer the question. My sister exhaled sharply on the other end. I could hear the irritation now. No softness, no fragility, just control slipping. You're letting her manipulate you, she said, on her wedding day of all days. My mother whispered, please, just tell us. Silence. Then my sister said very carefully, someone might have overheard part of it, but that doesn't change how humiliated I felt. My chest tightened. My father closed his eyes. So you knew, he said quietly. You knew she might not have told anyone. That's not what I said, my sister snapped. Why are you doing this to me? My mother's voice broke. Why didn't you tell us this before? Because you were already on my side, she replied, and I needed you there. The room felt like it was sinking. I hadn't spoken in minutes. I didn't need to. The lie was unraveling itself. My father sat down heavily, like the weight of the years had suddenly landed all at once. We told our daughter not to come home, he said, almost to himself. We cut her out because we thought we were protecting you. My sister's tone sharpened. You were protecting me. At what cost? My mother asked. There was no answer. My mother turned to me then, eyes red, searching my face like she was trying to recognize me again. Why didn't you ever tell us someone overheard? I did. To her, that night. My sister cut in quickly. You're twisting things. My father snapped. Enough. That single word carried more authority than anything he'd said in years. We asked one question and you avoided it. Again. My sister's breathing was audible now, fast, uneven. You're choosing her after everything I went through. No, my mother said. We're choosing the truth. That was when my sister broke. Not crying, not screaming. She laughed. A short, hollow laugh that made my skin crawl. You think this changes anything? You already lost her. You can't undo that. My father's voice was low, dangerous. Did you let us believe she betrayed you when you knew she hadn't? Another pause. This one felt final. And then, quietly, she said, I didn't stop you. My mother covered her mouth. My partner squeezed my hand so hard it almost hurt. My father stared straight ahead, his face drained of color. We watched us destroy our relationship with our child, he said, almost to himself, and you said nothing. My sister's tone sharpened. I was scared. I thought if you questioned it, you'd choose her. And if you didn't? My father asked. She was already gone, my sister said. It was easier. Easier? My mother let out a sound I'd never heard before, half sob, half gasp. We lost years, she whispered. We lost you, she said to me. I felt something shift inside my chest. Not relief, not forgiveness, just distance. My father stood up again. We need to talk in person, he said into the phone. This conversation isn't over. You can't be serious. Today, on her wedding day? Yes, because today is when the truth finally caught up with us. She hung up. The room was silent except for my mother's quiet crying. I'm sorry, she said to me over and over again. I'm so sorry. I watched her carefully. Apologies don't erase abandonment. They don't magically return stolen years. They don't heal the version of me that sat on that bus wondering what I'd done wrong. I needed you, I said, and you believed the worst of me without asking. My father's voice cracked. We failed you.
The words landed heavy, but they were late. There was another knock at the door. 5 minutes, the coordinator said gently. 5 minutes. I stood up. Everyone looked at me. I'm still getting married, I said. Today is about the family I chose. My partner nodded, eyes shining. My mother stood too, hesitantly. Can we sit in the front? I hesitated. I don't know yet, I said honestly. That depends on what happens next. My father nodded, accepting that more than he deserved to. As they left the room, my partner turned to me. Are you okay? I took a breath. I'm clear, I said, for the first time. But even as the music began to cue outside, a thought burned in the back of my mind. My sister wasn't done. People who control the story don't give it up quietly. And as I stepped toward the aisle, I knew one thing with chilling certainty. She would try one last time to take something from me. And I didn't yet know how far she was willing to go.
The doors closed behind me. For a heartbeat, everything went quiet. Then the music started. Soft, steady, familiar. Each note felt like it was pulling me forward, not just down the aisle, but through every version of myself that had survived long enough to stand here. The scared kid, the exiled daughter, the woman who rebuilt her life piece by piece. I lifted my chin. This was mine. As the doors opened, light flooded in. Guests turned, smiles spread, phones lifted discreetly. I caught a glimpse of my partner at the altar, eyes already wet, hands clenched like they were holding themselves together just to wait for me. And then I saw my parents. They were seated, not in the front row, but just behind it, close enough to see me clearly, far enough to know their place was no longer guaranteed. My mother was crying openly now. My father sat rigid, staring straight ahead like a man who'd realized too late that the ground beneath him had shifted. I didn't look away. I walked. Halfway down the aisle, something strange happened. A ripple moved through the guests, whispers, heads turning not toward me, but toward the back of the venue. At first, I thought someone was just late. Then the music faltered, stopped. My heart skipped. I turned, and there she was, my sister. She stood at the entrance like she belonged there. Perfect posture, carefully chosen dress, makeup flawless, the image of composure. The kind of composure that had fooled everyone for years. The room froze. My partner stiffened at the altar. My mother gasped. My father stood up. And my sister smiled. Not at me, at them. I'm sorry I'm late, she said softly, stepping forward. I just couldn't stay away. Every instinct in my body screamed. This was it, the last move. I felt my pulse in my ears as she walked slowly down the aisle, each step measured, eyes shining with unshed tears. She looked exactly like someone returning after unimaginable pain, exactly like the version they'd always believed. My father moved toward her. What are you doing here? She looked wounded. I came to support my sister. The audacity almost knocked the air out of my lungs. Support me? After years of silence? After lies? After exile? I saw guests exchanging confused looks. No one knew the history. No one knew the cost. All they saw was a family moment unfolding at the wrong time. My partner took a step toward me, concern written across their face. I lifted a hand slightly. Wait. I wanted to see how far she would go. My sister stopped a few feet from me, close enough that only I could see the tension behind her eyes, close enough that her voice dropped when she spoke again. You look beautiful, she said. I didn't respond. She turned to the crowd. I know this is unexpected, she said gently, but I couldn't let today happen without being here. My mother reached for her arm. This isn't the time. My sister shook her head, tears finally spilling.
It's always been about timing, hasn't it? I felt something cold settle in my chest. She wasn't here to apologize. She was here to reframe in public. I've carried something heavy for a long time, she continued, voice trembling just enough to sound real, and I know there have been misunderstandings. Misunderstandings. My father looked between us, panic flickering in his eyes. "Stop," he whispered. She ignored him. "I never wanted to hurt anyone," she said. "I just wanted to heal." Guests shifted uncomfortably now. This was no longer a simple interruption. This was a performance, and she was very, very good at it. I stepped forward. The room went silent. "I think," I said calmly, "that this is where you stop." She turned to me, eyes wide, wounded innocence fully on display. "I'm just trying to make peace." "You had years," I replied. "You chose silence." She shook her head slowly. "You always do this. You make me look like the villain." A murmur rippled through the crowd. I felt my partner's hand find mine. I took a breath. "No," I said. "I let you do that all on your own." My sister's expression flickered just for a second. Then she leaned into it. "Everyone deserves compassion," she said loudly, "even when they've hurt someone deeply." That was the moment I realized her plan. She wasn't here to confess. She was here to force forgiveness in public, where refusing would make me look cruel. Classic. My father stepped between us. "Enough," he said. "This ends now." My sister looked at him shocked. "Dad?" "You don't get to do this," he said. "Not today, not ever again." The room held its breath. My sister's voice cracked. "You're choosing her." My father swallowed. "I'm choosing not to be manipulated." The words landed harder than any accusation. My sister's composure finally slipped. "You don't know what she's capable of," she said sharply, pointing at me. "You don't know what she did to me." There it was, the lie, resurrected, in public, on my wedding day. I felt something inside me go very still. I turned to the guests, friends, colleagues, people who knew me now, not as a story, but as a person. "I need to say something," I said. My partner squeezed my hand. "I'm with you," they whispered. I nodded. "I was told not to come home once because I was accused of betraying my sister." Gasps. "I didn't do it," I continued, "and last night she admitted she knew that wasn't true." My sister shook her head violently. "That's not true." My father spoke up. "It is." My mother, trembling, nodded. "We heard it ourselves." The room erupted into whispers. My sister looked around, realizing too late that the audience had changed. "You're ganging up on me," she cried, "on her wedding day." "No," I said quietly, "we're ending a lie." She laughed again, sharp, desperate. "You think this makes you the hero?" "I don't care about being a hero. I care about being free." Security approached cautiously from the side, alerted by the coordinator. My sister looked at me one last time, eyes burning. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "They'll turn on you again." I met her gaze. "No," I said, "because this time I didn't stay silent." As security escorted her out, the doors closed behind her with a final, echoing thud. The music resumed, hesitant at first, then steady. I turned back toward the altar, but before I could take another step, my father's voice stopped me. "There's more," he said quietly. "Something she told us years ago that we never questioned." My heart sunk. "What?" I asked. He looked at me, face lined with regret and fear. "She said you didn't just betray her. She said you did it on purpose." The implication hung in the air, dark, dangerous. And suddenly I realized this wasn't the full truth yet, not even close.
The room felt colder after my father said that.
She said you didn't just betray her, he repeated quietly. She said you did it on purpose. The implication crawled under my skin. Not a mistake, not carelessness, malice. I looked at my mother. She couldn't meet my eyes. What exactly did she say? I asked. My father swallowed. She told us you were jealous, that you wanted to ruin her because you couldn't stand seeing her happy. A low murmur rippled through the guests. I felt my partner's hand tighten around mine, not to stop me, but to anchor me. I exhaled slowly. So that's the story, I said. Not just betrayal, intent. My mother whispered. She said you'd always resented her. I almost smiled. Because now I understood something crucial. My sister hadn't just lied to protect herself. She'd rewritten our entire history. Let me tell you what actually happened, I said, turning fully toward the crowd now, not because I owed them anything, but because truth stops being fragile once it's spoken out loud. I spent my childhood protecting my sister, I said, covering for her, standing between her and consequences, taking blame so she wouldn't have to. My sister's empty seat at the back of the room felt louder than her voice ever had. I was the one who stayed calm so she could fall apart, the one who made excuses so she could survive. My mother's shoulders shook. I didn't resent her. I carried her. My father closed his eyes. She told us you wanted attention, he said weakly. I nodded. And you believed that because it fit the version of me you'd already accepted. A guest near the front whispered, "Oh my God." I wasn't angry anymore. I was precise. There's one more thing you should know. That night, when she claims I humiliated her, someone did spread that story. My father looked up sharply. Who? I turned slightly, meeting my mother's gaze. It was the friend who overheard us, the one you welcomed into the house after I left, the one who stayed. My mother's face went white. She told us she was protecting your sister, my father said slowly. Yes, and my sister let her take the fall or the credit because it kept me out of the picture. Silence crashed down. My partner leaned toward me. You don't have to do this, they whispered. I know, but I want to. I turned back to my parents. You didn't just lose me because of a lie. You lost me because you never questioned who benefited from it. My father's eyes filled. We should have asked. Yes, I said, you should have. The officiant stood awkwardly to the side, unsure whether to intervene or vanish into the walls. I took a breath. This is still my wedding, and I'm still choosing joy. I turned to my partner. They smiled through tears. And just as I thought the worst was over, a voice rang out from the back of the room. Liar! Everyone turned. My sister stood there again. She had slipped past security. Her face was no longer composed, no mask, just rage. You planned this. You always planned this. Gasps, phones lifted, chaos threatened to erupt. My father shouted her name. You stole my parents. You always did. I stepped forward, alone this time. No, I said firmly. You just never learned how to share them. She laughed wildly. They loved you more and you know it. And there it was, the real truth. Not betrayal, not humiliation, competition. My mother covered her mouth, horrified. You told us she was cruel. You never told us you felt invisible. My sister froze. She'd said too much. I was invisible, and you never saw me. My heart softened for exactly 1 second. Then I remembered the years. I didn't deserve exile for your pain, and I won't carry it anymore. Security moved in again, firmer this time. My sister screamed as they took her arms. You're ruining everything. No, I said quietly. I'm ending it. As she was dragged away, she locked eyes with me one last time. This isn't over, she hissed. I believed her, but I wasn't afraid anymore. The doors slammed shut again, this time for good. The room was silent. My father turned to me, tears streaming freely now. We were wrong, he said, about everything. My mother stepped forward hesitantly. If we had one chance, just one, to start over. I looked at them, really looked. I don't know what that looks like yet, but it won't look like pretending nothing happened. They nodded. That was enough for today.
I turned back to the altar. The officiant stood awkwardly to the side, unsure whether to intervene or vanish into the walls. I took a breath. This is still my wedding, and I'm still choosing joy. I turned to my partner. They smiled through tears. And just as I thought the worst was over, applause broke out, not polite, but relieved, cathartic, like a collective exhale. But even as I stood there, ready to speak my vows, I knew this story wasn't finished yet, because healing doesn't happen in one confrontation, and some truths only reveal their meaning after the storm has passed.
The vows felt different after everything that had happened. Not lighter, deeper. When I looked at my partner, standing there steady and unflinching while my past tried to tear the room apart, I understood something I'd never fully grasped before. Love isn't proven when things are easy. It's proven when everything else is on fire and someone still chooses to stay. My voice didn't shake when I spoke. I promised honesty. I promised presence. I promised that the family we built together would never survive on silence. My partner's vows were simple and devastating in the best way. They promised to believe me, even when others didn't, especially then. When we kissed, the applause wasn't just celebration. It was release. After the ceremony, people approached carefully. Some hugged me, some just squeezed my hand. No one asked invasive questions. They didn't need to. Truth has a way of explaining itself. My parents stayed back, unsure of their place now. For once, they weren't assuming, they were waiting. That mattered more than any apology. Later that evening, when the music softened and the lights dimmed, my father finally approached me alone. "He need to tell you something," he said. I nodded. He looked older than I remembered, not physically, emotionally, like someone who had just woken up in a life they didn't recognize. "After you left," he said, "we built everything around protecting her. We told ourselves you were strong enough to be on your own." I held his gaze. "You don't abandon one child because another is fragile." He knew this. "I know, now." He hesitated. "She told us if we ever doubted her, we'd lose her forever." There it was. Fear. The currency my sister had used to buy loyalty. "And you chose not to risk that," I said. He nodded, shame written across his face. "We didn't realize we were already losing you." I didn't respond right away, because forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a process. My mother joined us later, holding 2 glasses she hadn't touched. "I keep replaying everything, looking for the moment I should have asked you instead of assuming. There were many," I said gently, "but the biggest one was when you stopped seeing me as your child and started seeing me as a threat." She broke down then. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just don't want to lose you forever." I took a slow breath. "I don't know what our relationship will look like," I said honestly, "but if we try again, it won't be built on denial." They both nodded. That was the first real step. My sister didn't contact us after that. No apology, no explanation, no attempt at repair. And that told me everything I needed to know. Some people don't want healing, they want control. When control fails, they disappear. In the weeks after the wedding, something unexpected happened. I felt lighter. Not because everything was resolved, but because I wasn't carrying the lie anymore. I wasn't wondering if maybe somehow I deserved what happened. I didn't. And neither do you if you're listening to this and seeing yourself in my story. My relationship with my parents is careful now. There are boundaries, there are pauses, there are conversations that still hurt, but there is also accountability, and that matters. They no longer speak for my sister. They no longer rewrite history. They ask, they listen. Sometimes they sit in discomfort instead of rushing to smooth it over. It's not perfect. It's real. As for me,
I stopped trying to earn my place in rooms that required my silence. I stopped apologizing for telling the truth. I stopped believing that being strong meant being disposable. Strength, I learned, is staying when it would be easier to disappear and speaking when silence would protect everyone but you. If you've ever been the sibling who was fine, the child who was understanding, the one who got cut off because someone else's feelings mattered more, I want you to hear this clearly. You were not too much. You were not cruel. You were not the problem. You were convenient to lose. And that says nothing about your worth. Families don't fracture because of truth. They fracture because of lies that everyone is too afraid to challenge. The moment someone finally does, the moment you do, it feels like destruction, but it isn't. It's exposure. And exposure is the beginning of freedom. I share this story not because it's dramatic, but because it's common. It hides in quiet families, in unspoken rules, in the child who leaves and never quite knows why. And if you're still wondering whether telling your truth is worth it, let me tell you what I gained when I finally did. My voice, my peace, my future. I didn't get my old family back, but I got something better. A life that doesn't require my absence to function, a love that doesn't collapse under pressure, and the certainty that no matter how painful the truth is, living it is always better than being erased by a lie.